Right, well, I'm going to try and go straight into a second video explaining more about socialism. And I think I've tricked myself by saying the word explaining, because this is a lot fuzzier, a lot fuzzier. I th- it's all to do with wealth creation, and what we think wealth is. This is why I've been trying these videos, because, okay, I think we've decided, we know. Let's go to these poor people in the super committee in the United States now, arguing about whether to raise taxes or cut social spending. Let's say it's that simple. They're arguing from purely prismatic, if you don't know what I mean, you should, arguments. They don't really have the facts at all. I guarantee that. They just do not have any facts at all. They're just going on prismatic arguments. Because I don't know that the facts are actually attainable. The real grunty facts. This is what I keep scratching at to try and get them, but, well, maybe saying that they're not available. I don't know where they are. So I'll try and build this up from a position that I normally hate, by oversimplifying something. Now, just to keep it so it's not so Austrian as being a desert island, I'll just, classic example would be my village here. My village here got a dynamic mayor about, well, 20 years ago, I suppose. And since, he's spent an awful lot of money on the village, doing all sorts of things. And the village has flourished. Lots of people want to come and live here because it's a go-getting sort of village. Now, the village next down that way, and the village next down, well, it's more over that way, but that way, had old type mayors that weren't dynamic, and they didn't spend money. They just started reducing the amount of money that they spent, because the amount of taxes, local taxes coming in, was going down. So they've had none of the renovation work, the work to the new schools or whatever it might be, the church redone, all the inside, the overhead wires putting under the ground, and generally, if anything falls down, to tidy it up, that we've had in our village. So now lots of taxes are going into our village. My taxes have gone up for the honour and privilege of living here. But now more taxes are coming in, because more people are starting to live here, because they know that this is the place to be at. The schools are good, basically, because big money's been spent on the schools. The whole village centre is tidy and neat, because big money's been spent on it. There's a pride in the village. Now, this gives us an idea of a starting point for what socialism, what government spending, etc. could or should be. Now, obviously there are huge problems, because what we can say is, if the village that way and the village that way spent huge like our village did, the influx of population that's come into our village now, which has started for the first time ever to put the taxes down last year and the year before, because there are enough people now that more people are paying the taxes. If they'd done it and they'd done it, all those people could not be shared out to share the repayment of the taxes. So money would have been spent to make things pretty, but the influx of people couldn't happen for village 1, 2 and 3. We've been fortunate that I've been fortunate that I live in a village that has got the amenities, and the people that have come to it, and the bulk of the amount of the people have come has meant the enough paying going in that the taxes have actually gone down. Them who didn't spend are just crumbling, And eventually what will happen is they'll go to nothing, and everything will come here. Probably something along those lines. It'll happen over time, but that sort of thing. So I think this gives us, I don't think it's a completely Austrian, too small example. But for social spending, what we need to imagine is what we would like, going right back to the beginning of it, what would we like to have, as in, if it wasn't putting electric cables underground, maybe it was having very poor people dying on the streets. I know it's a stretch, but and our village, let's say, paid for a house to take those people and put them in a house and feed them a couple of meals a day to get them off the streets, and get somebody to tidy them up and try and find them a job, something along those lines. So they're off the streets, so the village can continue to grow because people want to live here, because it's a village that doesn't have poor people dying on the streets. Right. Now, that would be the start of socialist programs. Forget the reality here in Europe that it was really to get to stop the spread of communism, and in America where it was an economic thing to get money invested back into the economy. So we get to this situation where spending on teachers, nurses, hairdressers is to create an environment where people want to live. That's what it's all about. Now, if the government started giving these dying on the street people individual homes, in the city centre it would be, and giving them 3 meals a day and one person to look after them each day, and then another person to try and get them to have a job, all the money from the village would be sucked in and given to those people. And we would then have to start paying more and more money to have the sort of environment that we want to live in. So that's our balance. Are we paying more money than we would like to pay? Are we paying for things, these socialist programs, that we really don't want to pay for? We don't really think that they are, we wouldn't voluntarily pay for them. Now, this is where it gets very tricky, and I'm going to have to just dip out and leave it to you. Because if you ask people what programs you want to cut, they generally don't come up with an answer. So the people want these programs to be in place, but they don't want to pay for them. That's what we've got. Now, obviously, a lot of the programs are over the top. They are giving too many houses to the too poor people, the people dying on the street, that side of the example. And there'll be some programs that are not being done that people would actually like to see them done. There's no pleasing everybody, but people, being selfish, generally want to live in a nice village area that they live in, and they do not want to see the poor and dying on the streets, and they want things taken care of them, care for them. If and when they go wrong, they want someone to call that they can go to easily. They want their life to be nice and easy. But the pro rata thing of not paying for it is not there. Forget which way it was, but you can see what I'm trying to say is we want an awful lot. We won't say let's cut this program and that program. What we will say is I won't pay this bulk of money. I think I should get a lot more for a lot less. We're being wholly and totally unrealistic. And I think basically probably we're being wholly and totally unrealistic to expect anybody to be able to sort this out for us. We're just not going to be able to do it. So it falls back on economic arguments. And I don't think economic arguments cut it, because the only real economic argument that I can find is MMT. Whether a government can just pay for things. As long as it doesn't create inflation, can it just pay for things? And to my mind, as long as it's having one house for the people dying on the street and they've got 2 meals and one person looking after them, that seems to be fine for me, if that's the way it goes. If it stops the people having to pay out of their money, so they've got more money to spend in the, say, private sector, let the government spend these extra monies on things, as long as it doesn't create a problem for the people in general. So we have to ask ourselves, what problem is the government causing the people in general now by spending big on these socialist programs? What's the answer? What harm is being done to you by the government spending large on these programs? And if it is, well, I don't want to pay any more taxes, well, that's what it is. But we need to get things out in the open about what we are and aren't willing to pay for. And again, I've got no tidy ending for this. But taxes in the past have been an awful lot higher than they are now. So we say, well, yes, but that's causing trouble with the government accounts. The government is then spending money, which is our money, and they're going to have to get our children to pay for it. And again, this is all thrown back onto MMT. MMT has to be sorted out. If we don't sort out the veracity, whether it's real, right and decent and proper and truthful MMT, we just don't have an end to this argument at all. If we don't, all we have to deal on is government deficits. And I don't think government deficits outside the euro area are or would be a problem. Because the government it's a bit MMT, the government spends enough money, it goes into the economy, enough people have enough savings left over at the end of the week, month, year, to say, well, I'll have some of those government savings bonds. And I think it could work out fine. It's just the euro has given other countries a huge stick to beat the drum, really, that they were thinking anyway, of their little prism. If this stupid euro thing hadn't come in and shown how stupid countries could be by making old OECD countries totally constrained, just like a household is, I don't think any of these problems will have arisen. France, since I've been in the country, has never, and that's nearly 30 years, it's never run a government surplus. Never. I think the last one the surplus it had was 1973. And I don't think that would have been a particular problem if France wasn't now in the euro area. All the problems have been caused by badly setting up this euro thing. And not just that, as I say, now America is got a stick called "You're going to be like Greece" to beat up their own government, and the UK the same, saying you're going to be like Greece when you're not like Greece, because you're not trapped into a household-like economy like Greece and France is. You're free to keep doing as you have done since the Second World War, and everything to a certain extent was and still is working out all right. You're paying less taxes and getting more social funding, and it's not fine, hunky-dory, super-duper, but it's not bloody bad. And the people that say, well, the value of my dollar has gone down from how much better is the standard of living now to the 70s or to the 50s or the 30s? It's hugely better. We're doing extremely well. or at least were until the Eurozone came along and ruined it all. Right, that's the end of the second video, and probably me for the day. Yeah, we'll see, but that's it. Thanks. Bye.